New Moon in Cancer by Angela. Occurring July 14th. Quote, "If you were arrested for being kind to yourself, would there be enough evidence to convict you?" Peter McWilliams. With the sun in the nurturing sign of Cancer now, and Mercury, the way we think, question, and communicate, retrograding through Cancer, we are being asked to turn our focus inward. Go within and ask yourself what you have put on the back burner in terms of your own needs and desires. What have you wanted but set aside because it seemed unimportant compared with the needs of others? Now is the time to pursue it. Whenever I think of relentless self-focus and enlightened selfishness, I am reminded of an incident that occurred some years ago, and one to which I imagine many parents can relate. Back during the 2010-2011 school year, I found myself working as one of 2 security officers at a middle school full of 1,200 students between the ages of 11 and 14. At that time, my unofficial counseling background, paired with several years of martial arts training, qualified me to work middle school security. Simultaneously, I was completing a second master's degree in school counseling and was excited at being what the vice principal called a roaming counselor at the school. The unofficial title allowed me not only to work security, but also to act as a confidant and emotional support for the students while working closely with their guidance counselors and the school psychologist. Despite being hormone-crazed, spastic, devious little monkeys, the kids were also hilarious, fun, and infinitely creative. They endeared themselves to me quickly, and I took their well-being very seriously. Part of my routine each day was to monitor each group of students as they ate lunch, and then to supervise them outside so that they could play and talk together on the blacktop for the remainder of the lunch period. One day, the school was dramatically understaffed. Therefore, it seemed almost inevitable when, near the end of the first lunch, one of the boys sitting with his friends at a table somehow managed to lose his balance and fell backward off the bench onto the floor, knocking himself unconscious. Within moments, the paramedics had been called as students from the next lunch were beginning to arrive in the cafeteria line to pick up their lunch trays. Suddenly, one of the incoming students dropped a tray of spaghetti on the floor next to the cashier stand. The student went back to get another lunch tray while I moved quickly to the mess on the floor and radioed a janitor to ask for help cleaning it up. As I was talking to the janitor over the radio, I glanced over to where the team of paramedics were beginning to resuscitate the formerly unconscious student near the table. Simultaneously, I'd used my body to block the line of students from walking over the spilled food, and instead redirected them to walk around it to the cashier stand. Students from the first lunch were beginning to head outside, and I knew I needed to be out there with them, but I couldn't leave the mess on the floor until a janitor showed up. Utter chaos was reigning. Then, at that precise moment, I felt a tug on my sleeve and looked down to see a young 6th grade girl looking up at me with wide eyes, brimming with tears. "Miss A?" she addressed me. "I didn't get a cookie." For a moment I thought I'd misheard her. "A cookie?" I repeated. She nodded gravely, her lower lip trembling. I looked around helplessly. There was pandemonium everywhere, but the girl seemed oblivious to it and never took her eyes off me. "And you were supposed to get a cookie?" I asked. Another nod. More students were dashing outside. I prayed that nothing would happen while they played unsupervised. "Okay, come stand here right next to me," I told the girl, thinking rapidly. "Don't go anywhere." She came and stood behind me as I continued directing the students from the lunch line around the mess on the floor to the cashier stations. With intense relief, I saw a janitor approach me, and a few moments later, allowing me to leave the site of the spill. I thanked the janitor and told the 6th grader to follow me. I broke into the lunch line where one of the lunch ladies was passing out food, and I obtained the desired cookie without further ado. After the girl had scampered off with her cookie to a table and I had arrived outside to find that none of my charges had been injured or killed in my absence, I breathed another sigh of relief and said a silent prayer of thanks. As children, we can be naturally self-absorbed. We can have a single-minded focus on our wants and desires that is often socialized out of us over time. Many of us learn to share and even to prioritize others' needs and desires as more important than our own. However, every one of us has an inner child that continues to need that same nurturing focus, regardless of how old we've become. So during this new moon in Cancer, take the time to ask for your cookie. Happy new moon, Angela.